আসসালামু আলাইকুম, কেমন আছেন? আমি তুষার আপনাদের সাথে আছি। আজকে আমাদের সপ্তম দিন। আমাদের যে 40 দিনের রিডিং চ্যালেঞ্জ রয়েছে, এই রিডিং চ্যালেঞ্জের আজকে 7তম দিন। তো এই দিনে আমি একটি সুন্দর আর্টিকেল নিয়েছি যেটা আমি পড়বো। তো পড়ার শুরু করার আগে নিয়মটা বলে দিই। ফার্স্টে আমি স্টপওয়াচ চালু করে দিই। স্টপওয়াচ চালু করে দেওয়ার পরে আমি রিডিংটা পড়ি, ফুল আর্টিকেলটা ওয়ার্ড বাই ওয়ার্ড মিনিং বুঝে শুনে পড়ার চেষ্টা করি। পড়ার পরে আমি স্টপওয়াচটা আবার রিসেট করে আবার আরেকবার পড়ি রিডিং। তখন শুধু রিডিং পড়ে যাই। তো এটা আমার আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং পাওয়ার বাড়াবে, যার কারণে আমি দেখি যে আমার কতগুলো সময় লাগলো তারতম্য বোঝার জন্য, যে আমার বুঝে পড়তে কতটুকু সময় লাগলো আর আমার রিডিং পড়তে কতটুকু সময় লাগছে। তো এই হচ্ছে আমার স্ট্র্যাটেজি। আর মাঝে যদি কোনো ওয়ার্ড বা ইম্পর্টেন্ট আমার কাছে মনে হয় যে এটা আমার লিখে রাখা দরকার, এটা আমার আইএলটিএস রাইটিং অথবা আমার রিডিংয়ে কাজে লাগবে পরবর্তীতে, আমি লিখে রাখি। তো আপনারা যদি আমার সাথে কোনো ব্যক্তি যদি আমার সাথে এই চ্যালেঞ্জটি নিয়ে থাকেন, প্লিজ কমেন্ট বক্সে আমাকে জানান। অন্তত আমার ভালো লাগা কাজ করবে যে কেউ একজন আমার সাথে আছে। আর আপনার কতটুকু সময় লাগলো এটা অবশ্যই আমাকে জানাবেন, আমার সাথে কম্পেয়ার করার জন্য, যে আপনার কতটুকু সময় লাগছে আমার কতটুকু লাগছে, এটা আমার বুঝতে সব সুবিধা হবে। তো ঠিক আছে, আমি বেনিফিটেড হচ্ছি, ইনশাল্লাহ আপনিও হবেন যদি এই চ্যালেঞ্জটি আপনি নেন। ঠিক আছে, শুরু করা যাক। আর এই ভিডিওটি আমি জানি না আপনারা দেখবেন কি না, আমি চাইও না আপনি দেখেন, কারণ আমার ভাঙা ভাঙা রিডিং আমি আমি আমি- আমি চাই না যে আপনি শোনেন, বাট আমি চাই যে আপনি এই আর্টিকেলটি পড়েন এবং আমাকে কমেন্টস বক্সে জানান যে আপনার কতটুকু সময় লাগলো। ওকে, লেটস গেট স্টার্টেড। Could carbon removal take make travel more sustainable? Could carbon removal take make travel more sustainable? I mean, carbon removal technology, gadgets, transportation system, um, it is it help to sustainable? It help to travel more sustainable. Could carbon removal take travel more sustainable? Okay.
কার্বন অপসারণ প্রযুক্তি কি ভ্রমণকে আরও টেকসই করতে পারে?
হুম, তো আমরা এখানে বুঝতে পারছি যে আমাদের কার্বন টেকনোলজি সম্পর্কে বলবে, খুড কার্বন রিমুভাল টেকনোলজি সম্পর্কে বলবে, যেটা আমাদের এনভায়রনমেন্টকে ভালো রাখবে এবং আমাদের সবকিছু পরিবেশ সাস্টেইনেবল করে তুলবে। ওকে, পড়া শুরু করি। দিস আর্টিকেল ওয়াজ পাবলিশড বাই সারা রেইড অ্যান্ড 2020 28 জুলাই। A new wave of carbon offsetting platforms invites consumers to remove emissions instantly and permanently. Could travelers are to could travelers be the key to their success? A new wave of offsetting. Carbon offsetting means
Carbon offsetting. Carbon offsetting.
offsetting.
Carbon offsetting.
Carbon
Carbon
offsetting.
offsetting.
Offsetting. A new wave of carbon offsetting platform invites consumers মানে আমাদের ইনভাইট করছে to remove emissions instantly and permanently. ওকে, তাৎক্ষণিক যে ইমিশন রয়েছে এটা রোধ করার জন্য এটা কাজ করবে। Could travelers be the key to their success? Okay, if your 2012 travel plans were cancelled by the coronavirus, carbon offsetting is probably the last thing on your mind. As few as 1% of airline passengers participated in voluntary carbon offsetting before virus-induced travel restrictions took hold, according to the International Air Transport Association, in indicating the purchasing. Okay, what is the correct pronunciation?
Purchasing.
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 Purchasing carbon credits from your airline or certificate carbon offsetting organization to compensate মানে ক্ষতিপূরণ
Compensate.
compensate
Compensate. Compensate.
for your travel emissions likely wasn't high on your priority na
priority,
priority list to begin with, to begin to begin with or
begin,
begin
begin,
begin with. Wow, I correct three pronunciation. Priority, begin. If your 2012 travel, 2020 travel plans were cancelled by the coronavirus, carbon offsetting is probably the last thing on your mind. As few as 1% of airline passengers participated in voluntary carbon offsetting before virus-induced travel restriction took hold, according to the organization IATA, indicating that purchasing carbon credits from your alliance or certified carbon offsetting organization to compensate for your travel emissions. Travel emission means ভ্রমণ নির্গমন. Travel emissions likely wasn't high on your priority list to begin with. We know travelers want to take climate action into their own hand. We know travelers want to take climate action into their own hand. Own hand.
আমরা জানি ভ্রমণকারীরা জলবায়ু ব্যবস্থা নিজেদের হাতে নিতে চায়।
Yet amid prediction means পূর্বাভাসের মধ্যে.
yet amid predictions,
Yet amid prediction, the drop in global emission recorded during the coronavirus shutdowns may be short-lived.
short-lived, short-lived,
Yet amid prediction that the drop in global emissions recorded during coronavirus shutdown may be short-lived, and that the economic impact of the virus may slow effort to reduce aviation emission long-term. Aviation emission. What's the mean?
aviation emissions,
Aviation. তো মানে aeroplaneর আরেকটা synonym, the other synonym is aviation.
aviation,
Another synonym is aviation of
aviation, 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 aviation,
emission মানে ক্ষয়,
emissions,
may slow effort to reduce aviation emission long term. Voluntary carbon offsetting means offset করা.
offsetting,
Carbon offset will arguably means যুক্তিযুক্ত হবে, arguably be more important than ever when the international travel industry is firing on all engines again. Is firing arguably যুক্তিযুক্ত হবে, arguably. Offsetting will arguably be more important than ever when the international travel industry is firing on all engines again. Okay, yet amid prediction that the drop in global emissions recorded during the coronavirus shutdown may be short-lived, and that the economic impact of the virus may slow effort to reduce aviation emission long term. Voluntary carbon offsetting will arguably যুক্তিযুক্তভাবে be more important, এটা যুক্তিযুক্তভাবে অনেক important than ever when the international travel industry is firing on all engines again. ইন্টারন্যাশনাল এজেন্সিগুলো স্টার্ট হওয়ার আগে আমাদের এই বিষয় নিয়ে গুরুত্বভাবে ভাবা দরকার, Could a new form of carbon offsetting help to increase travelers' participations? Could pronunciation
কার্বন অফসেটিংয়ের একটি নতুন রূপ ভ্রমণকারীদের অংশগ্রহণ বাড়াতে সাহায্য করতে পারে।
Okay, could a new form of carbon offsetting help to increase travelers' participation? Could a new form, this new form of carbon organization, technology of carbon offsetting help to increase travelers' participation? This device can increasing the participation of our air travels. Okay, let's see. The rays of carbon removal take. The rays of carbon removal take.
কার্বন অপসারণ প্রযুক্তির উত্থান।
The rays of carbon removal tech. How to raise this carbon removal technology? Burnout of the Kyoto climate fails in 1997. Carbon offsetting has long struggled with an immense problem. Offsetting scheme allow people to invest in environmental project design to sequester carbon emissions. Sequester carbon emission of such as planting tree. Offsetting scheme allow people to invest in environmental project designed to sequester carbon emissions such as planting trees or prevent emission from occurring. Occurring. Prevent emission. প্রতিরোধ emission নির্গমন from occurring, such as renewable energy project, but a lack of regulation and accountability in the early days failed widespread district of their effectiveness. Fueled মানে জ্বালানি fueled
fueled,
fueled
fueled,
fueled
fueled,
fueled
fueled,
fuelled fueled
fueled, fueled, fueled,
fueled fuelled
fueled,
fueled
fueled,
fuelled
fueled,
but lack of regulation and accountability in the early days fueled widespread distrust of their effectiveness. Widespread distrust. ব্যাপক অবিশ্বাস.
widespread distrust,
Widespread distrust.
widespread distrust,
Widespread distrust of their effectiveness. More recently, the wildfire that have ripped through Australia. Ripped through means ছিঁড়ে ফেলা, মাধ্যমে ছিঁড়ে ফেলা.
তিনি অস্ট্রেলিয়ায় ছড়িয়ে পড়া দাবানল। তিনি অস্ট্রেলিয়ায় ছড়িয়ে পড়া দাবানল।
The wildfire that have ripped through Australia, California, and the Amazon have magnified the issues involved with forestry-based offsetting scheme. আচ্ছা, magnified মানে বর্ধিত করা, ম্যাগনিফাই মানে বৃদ্ধি করা, বর্ধিত করা, MAGNIFIED, magnified the issue involved with forestry-based offsetting schemes. When a tree burns, it releases its entire carbon stash back into the atmosphere. I have magnified. Okay, magnified is a good word. Is a good word. I wrote down. I'm writing this word in my note khata. Magnified. ম্যাগনিফাইড মানে কি? বর্ধিত। বৃদ্ধি করা। Issue involved forestry based off seeding schemes. It release it into your carbon stash back into the atmosphere. The difficulty in accurately quantifying most carbon offsetting program. The difficulty in accurately accurately quantifying পরিমাপ quantifying quantifying most carbon offsetting program difficult to gauge
Gauge.
ওই যে গেজ মানে পরিমাপ করা offsetting organization to compensate for your travel. What is the meaning of compensate? ক্ষতিপূরণ
Compensate.
compensate
Compensate.
compensate
Compensate. Compensate.
compensate compensate for your travel emissions likely wasn't high on your priority list to begin with. Okay, we know travelers want to take climate action in their one hand. Yet, amid predictions that the drop in global emission recorded during coronavirus shutdown may be short-lived, and that the economic impact of the virus may slow efforts to reduce aviation emission long term. Reduce effort to reduce. Yes, the lockdown ছিল এটাতে রিডিউস হয়েছে। কি রিডিউস হয়েছে? Aviation emission long term. Voluntary carbon offsetting will arguably be more important than ever when the international travel industry is firing means begin all engines again. Could a new form of carbon offsetting help to increase traveler participations? The raise of carbon removal take. I mean the carbon removal take increase করতে হবে. We should increase carbon removal take. Born out of keto climate like 997, carbon offsetting has long struggled with an immense problem. Carbon offsetting has long struggled with an immense problem. Offsetting schemes allow people offsetting মানে নির্গমন offsetting means offset করা offsetting scheme offset scheme allow people to invest in environmental projects designed to sequester means স্বতন্ত্র করিয়া রাখা নিঃসঙ্গ করে রাখা sequester carbon emission such as planting trees or prevent emission from occurring. Okay, such renewable energy project or prevent emission from occurring, but a lack of regulation and accountability in the early days fueled widespread distrust of their effectiveness. মানে proper enough rules or regulation, there haven't any enough rules and regulation, that's why the widespread threat of their effectiveness is increasing. More recently, the wildfire that have ripped through means ripped through Australia, California, and Amazon have magnified the issues involved with the forestry based of the spraying scheme. Forestry based, that scheme was totally forestry based. When a tree burns, it releases its entire carbon is trash back into the atmosphere. Carbon trash means carbon stash
Carbon stash.
carbon stash back into the atmosphere. A nice picture. CO2 removal thought reforestation is used to offset emission, has it downside. Has it downside? The difficulty in accurately quantifying most carbon offsetting programs. It's difficult to gauge, for example, the volume of emissions you will offset by contributing to a clean cooktop project, and energy efficiency initiative typically founded by offsetting organization hasn't helped. Program hasn't helped. Okay, the difficulty is accurately quantifying most carbon offsetting program hasn't helped. Then come claymore এটা কি claymores
Climeworks.
climeworks
Climeworks.
Then come climeworks, a Swiss startup that pioneered
Pioneered.
pioneered
Pioneered.
pioneered
Pioneered.
pioneered a technology that suck that sucks means tushar
Sucks.
sucks
Sucks.
sucks
Sucks.
carbon out of the air, যেটা এয়ার থেকে কার্বন আউট চুষে নেয়, and turn into stone এবং তাকে কি করে দেয়, স্টোনে রূপান্তরিত করে দেয়। ওকে, কি বলতে চাইলো তাহলে, যে pioneer technology that suck carbon out of the air, কার্বনকে আউট করে দেয় এয়ার থেকে, and turns into stone এবং এটাকে কিসে পাথরে রূপান্তরিত করে দেয়, effectively removing carbon emission from the atmosphere instantly, safely and permanently. And effectively removing carbon emission from atmosphere instantly, instantly, TNTLI, safely and permanently. Location on the mossy slopes of active volcano. Mossy slopes taking
Mossy slopes.
located on the mossy slopes of an active volcano in southwest Ireland. Climeworks first carbon removal plants with a permanent storage facility commenced in 2017, powered by waste heat from geothermal energy plant. What is this? ভূতাপীয় শক্তি উদ্ভিদ
Geothermal energy plant.
geothermal energy plant
Geothermal energy plant. Geothermal energy plant.
geothermal energy plant
Geothermal energy. Geothermal energy plant.
Okay, a geothermal energy plant. It harness direct air capture. Harnesses means jota bormo jin.
Harnesses.
It harnesses direct air capture technology to draw ambient air পরিবেষ্টনকারী বাতাস.
Ambient air. Ambient air.
Ambient air is to gain vacuum cleaner, is to gain vacuum cleaner like machines called CO2 collectors. The carbon is the separated from the captured air. The carbon is probably the separated from the captured air, combined with water and pumped 700 underground through natural min- mineralization. Natural mineralization. What is this means?
প্রাকৃতিক খনিজকরণের মাধ্যমে প্রাকৃতিক খনিজকরণের মাধ্যমে প্রাকৃতিক খনিজকরণের মাধ্যমে
Okay, through natural mineralization, the carbon dioxide react with basalt rock. Basalt rock. কি অবস্থা আমার উচ্চারণের?
Basalt rock.
Basalt rock.
Basalt rock.
Basalt rock.
Basalt rock.
Basalt rock. Rock মানে শিলা. Basalt rock and turns into stone within a few years, while the remaining air simply return to the atmosphere. Okay, this is work. Remove carbon dioxide um, from tree or from others, and it turns into the stone. This is the strategy, this device. Like planting trees and fertilizing the ocean, TEC is what's known as carbon dioxide removal solution or negative emission technology. This solution typically means organic ভাবে, typically means সাধারণভাবে,
Typically.
typically, typically না, কেউ একজন আমাকে বলেছিল যে সব কালি ক্লি হয়ে যাবে, typically, typically,
Typically.
yes,
Typically.
typically form from the basis of carbon of seeding projects supported by airlines such as Qantas and Delta, with most carriers now aligned with project aligned মানে সারিবদ্ধ,
Aligned. Aligned.
aligned with project verified by the Lake Gold standard and the verified carbon standard, once considered much less important than reducing emission from the outside when it comes to mitigating climate change. Mitigating মানে কমানো, প্রশমত করা,
জলবায়ু পরিবর্তন প্রশমিত করা
প্রশমিত করা, yes. Climate change carbon dioxide removal solution received significant scientific endorsement in 2018 when the publication of the IPCC report on keeping the rise in global temperature to 150 C. This century identified that these technologies would be essential. Not essential. Essential.
Essential. Essential.
Essential.
Essential.
Essential in reaching climate targets with limited or no overshoot. Essential. Okay, কি করা হচ্ছে এখানে? Factory. Climework direct air capture plant in Iceland is powered by waste heat from the geothermal energy plant. Okay, geothermal energy plant is as a scheme, and this device try to capture the carbon dioxide from the air and make it turn into stone. While most climate scientists agree that the portfolio of carbon dioxide removal solution is required to help turn back the clock on global warming, the efficiency and measurability of DAC with permanent storage combined with its minimal physical footprints and negligible environment impact. Negligible. negligible নগণ্য পরিবেশ negligible environment impact total less than 10%. It sucks out of the atmosphere, has seen the technology immersed, nice word, immersed mean উত্থান, technology immersed, emerg, immersed, technology emerged as a particularly promising approach. In terms of efficiency, one tree removes approximately 25 kg carbon dioxide per year. Wow, 32 কেজি, 25 কেজি অনেক, making one climb work to carbon dioxide collect 2000 times more efficient per area. That that is straight. That tree, said John Wisbacher, co-founder and co-director of Climework, which in June was named among 100 technology planners 2020 by the World Economic Forum. In terms of efficiency, one tree moved approximately, okay, তো বললাম, over the last decade, this is a nice word we used in our writing test 1. গত এক দশকে, indeed, also over the last decade, we have proven that direct air capture is not only possible but also community widespread, large scale. Okay, indeed, while claim work first amount mother removal faculty is capable of turning just 50 tons of carbon to stone per year, a drop in the ocean compared to the 36 billion tons of carbon emitted globally in 2090. The company is rapidly expanding. Extend করবে with a new faculty and locate Iceland, capable of permanently removing several thousand tons of carbon per year due to gone by the end of 2020. While most climate scientists agree that portfolio মানে মন্দিরিত portfolio of carbon dioxide removal solution is required to help turn back the clock on global warming, the efficiency and measurability of DAC with permanent storage combined with its minimal physical footprint, negligible environmental impact, negligible নগণ্য পরিবেশ প্রভাব, then 10% of carbon dioxide it sucks out the atmosphere, has seen the technology emerge as a particularly promising approach. In terms of efficiency, one tree removes approximately 25 kg of carbon dioxide per year, making one climb work carbon dioxide collector 2000 times more efficient per area than a tree. Said Jen Wajbacher, co-founder and co-director of Claymworks, which in June was named among 100 technology pioneers of 2020 by the World Economic Forum. Over the last decade, we have proven that direct air capture is not only possible but also commercially viable on large scale. Commercially viable. Viable means কার্যকর, viable, viable. Over the last decade, we have proven that direct air capture is not only possible but also commercially viable on a large scale. Indeed, while Climework first permanent carbon removal facility is capable of turning just 50 tons of carbon to stone per year, a drop the ocean Compared to the 36 billion tons of carbon emitted globally in 2020, the company is rapidly expanding with a new facility in Iceland capable of permanently removing several thousand tons of carbon per year, due to open by the end of 2020. A new wave of carbon offsetting platforms allow travelers to remove emission instantly and permanently. A new wave. Okay, Climeworks also has more than a dozen other plants in Europe that capture carbon to sell commercially for use in everything from carbonated drinks and synthetic fuels. Carbonated drinks, synthetic কৃত্রিম জ্বালানি,
Synthetic fuels.
synthetic fuels, which help found the permanent carbon removal arm of the business. Mobilizing travelers. What is means mobilizing travelers? ভ্রমণকারীদের একত্রিত করা. Mobilizing travelers.
Mobilizing travelers.
Mobilizing travelers. In June 2020, Climework became the first company in the world to launch a personal carbon removal via dark service to the public with a subscriptions $7 per month funding 8.5 kg 85 kg of carbon per year being turned to those tons. Now a new permanent carbon removal platform aimed at travelers and launched in partnership with an adventure travel trade association has joined a movement to help offset the whopping 8% of global emission that the international travel industry is responsible for. The finding of IPCC report, particularly the urgency needed to make impact, deeply affected me, said Christina Beckman, Vice President of Global Strategy at the ATTA. After attending Summit design means Shirsho design,
Summit.
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 After attending a climate summit designed to help delegates take climate action, help delegates মানে কি প্রতিনিধি
Delegates.
Delegates take climate action within their own spheres of influence. Beckman founded carbon removal education platform Tomorrow's Air in Earth Day 2020. 2 months later, in June, Tomorrow Air launched its own online carbon removal service in partnership with Climework. Until we come up with a genuinely sustainable way of flying people around the planet, we need to fly less. আমাদের কম উঠতে হবে. Until we come up with a genuinely sustainable way of flying people around the planet, যতক্ষণ পর্যন্ত আমরা না একটা সুন্দর এবং উপযুক্ত ওয়ে বের না করতে পারছি, ততক্ষণ পর্যন্ত আমাদের কি করতে হবে? কম উঠতে হবে. We need to fly less. While carbon credit sold by Climework and Tomorrow Air both go towards turning carbon into stone monthly subscription to fund our stone, Beckman is confident that launching a carbon removal platform incubated by the ATTA, which reaches more than 6 million adventure travelers, will help motivate more travelers to sign up. Travel perks for cleanup campaign level subscriber, including travel gear discounts and exclusive destination tips and contract sweet and dual. If you have just done the math on that, however, you would have figured out FIGURED figured out that an annual cleanup campaign subscriptions barely offset barely means
barely,
সবে মাত্র barely offsets one-way economy flight from Los Angeles to New York City, making turning carbon into stone very expensive in comparison to traditional carbon offsetting schemes. To put the price differences into perspective, offsetting a ton of carbon via German non-profit atmosphere which support gold standard certified sustainable development projects costs just but with claim predicting that it will slash its cost by two-thirds within 4 years, the price gap is closing. Wind farms like duck are carbon dioxide removal solution or negative emission technology. Wind farms. Ultimately, tomorrow year will be successful for the awareness it creates as much as for the carbon it removes, said Beckman, who recently launched virtual tours of climbers plants in Switzerland for Arbab experience so consumers can see for themselves how drug technology works. We know that travelers want to take climate action into their one hand, and tomorrow we are offers one easy and fun way to make an immediate impact while helping to drive the cost of para- of permanent carbon removal down. Could this be new carbon offsetting? Could this be the new carbon offsetting? এটি কি নতুন কার্বন অফসেট হতে পারে? Could this be the new carbon offsetting? Could this be the new carbon offsetting? Could this be the new carbon offsetting? এটা কি নতুন কারণ হতে পারে? Okay, as permanent carbon removal become more accessible to travelers through these two schemes, environmental sociologist and University of Southampton research fellow Dr. Roger Thayers, who explored carbon offsetting in his PhD, says it may help to bolster the offset industry. Bolster the offset industry. More measurable offsets like direct air capture could lift standard across the whole offset market, he said. They might also help shine a light on cheaper and less effective offset schemes that have dominated the market so far. That have dominated the market so far, which are often too good or cheap to be true. Until carbon removal with permanent storage become more financially viable for travelers to adopt. Until carbon removal with permanent storage become more financially viable. Viable means কার্যকর. More financially viable. Okay. Until carbon removal with permanent storage become more financially viable for travelers to adopt, offer other offsite providers perhaps shouldn't too worried about losing customers, but the founders of Climbers and Tomorrow's are hope that the need for urgent action in climate action will encourage travelers to incorporate permanent carbon removal into their carbon offsetting strategies sooner rather than later. Sooner rather than later মানে
sooner rather than later, sooner rather than later.
by turning carbon into stone, with permanent storage is seen as particularly promising technology. Travelers should not stop making other sustainable choices. We need them all. Backman's rate, but by contributing percentages of their offsetting budget to carbon removal with permanent storage, travelers can show their support for this faster and more durable solution. টেকসই সমাধান durable 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 solution, more durable solution, support for this faster and more durable solution.
More durable solution.
Traveler can show their support for this faster and more durable solution. However, as international borders slowly begin to reopen, flowing coronavirus reopen. Okay, borders slowly begin to reopen, flowing coronavirus lockdowns. There advises that carbon dioxide removal by turning carbon into stone, just like any other form of carbon offsetting, shouldn't be viewed as an excuse to book a long haul. A long haul means একটি দীর্ঘ পথ, a long haul holiday with a clear conscience, চেতনা,
Conscience.
conscience until we come up with genuinely sustainable of flying people around the planet. We need to fly less, he said. It's as simple as that. Future of Travel is a series from BBC Travel that investigates what the world might look like travelers in the coming years and meets the people living on the front line of change. Okay, that's all today's article. Carbon could remove tech make travel more sustainable. Okay, yes, the whole process try to understand that yes, we can make carbon removal tech in future, and after making that gadget, that device, not device, that transportation, please make sure that you are flyless. We are trying to flyless as can as possible to making a durable solution of carbon dioxide. ওকে, আমার আর্টিকেল পড়াটি শেষ। এখন আমি দেখবো যে আমার কত মিনিট সময় লেগেছিল। ওয়াও, 47 মিনিট সময় লেগেছে। ঠিক আছে, স্টপ ওয়াচটা কোথায়? স্টপ ওয়াচ দেখি 47 মিনিট সময় লেগেছে, 50 মিনিটের কাছাকাছি। তো আমি এটাকে স্টপ করে দিলাম। স্টপ করে দিয়ে এটাকে আবার রিসেট দিলাম। রিসেট দিয়ে আমি এবার থ্রোলি প্রথম থেকে শেষ পর্যন্ত শুধু রিডিং পড়ে যাব, দেখবো যে কতক্ষণ সময় লাগে। ওকে, আপনারাও রিডিং পড়েন একদম প্রথম থেকে শেষ পর্যন্ত, পড়ে আমাকে জানান যে আপনাদের সময় কতক্ষণ লেগেছে বা লাগছে। আমি শুরু করি তাহলে। শুরু করে দিলাম। ওকে, could carbon removal tech make travel more sustainable? A new wave of carbon offsetting platform invites consumers to remove emission instantly and permanently. Could traveler be the key to their success? If your 2020 travel plans were cancelled by the coronavirus, carbon offsetting is probably the last thing in your mind. As few as 1% of airline passengers participated in voluntary carbon offsetting before virus-induced travel restrictions to halt, according to the International Air Transport Association (IATA), including indicating that purchasing carbon credits from your airline or certified carbon offsetting organization to compensate for your travel emission likely wasn't high on your priority list to begin with. We know travelers want to take climate action into their own hand. Yet amid prediction The drop in global emission recorded during coronavirus shutdown may be short-lived, and that the economic impact of the virus may show efforts to reduce aviation emission. Aviation means airplanes emission. Aviation emission long term. Voluntary carbon offsetting will arguably be more important than ever when the international travel industry is firing on all engine engines. Could a new form of carbon offsetting help to increase traveler participations? The rise of carbon removal tech. Born out the Kyoto climate talks in 1997, carbon offsetting has long struggled with an immense problem. Offsetting schemes allow people to invest in environmental projects designed sequester carbon emissions, or prevent emission from occurring, but a lack of regulation and accountability in the early days fueled widespread distrust of their effectiveness. More recently, the wildfires that have ripped through Australia, California, and the Amazon have magnified the issues involved with the forest-based offsetting schemes. The difficulty in accurately quantifying most carbon offsetting program hasn't helped. Then come Claymore, a Swiss startup that pioneered technology that sucks carbon out of the air and turns it into stones, effectively removing carbon emissions from the atmosphere instantly, safely, and permanently. Located on the mossy slopes of an active volcano in southwest Ireland, Claymore first carbon removal plant with permanent storage facility commenced in 2017, powered by waste heat from a geothermal energy plant. It harnessed direct and capture technology to draw ambient air into giant vacuum cleaner like machines called CO2 collectors. The carbon is then separated from the captured air, combined with the water, and pumped 700 meter underground. Through natural mineralization, the carbon dioxide reacts with basalt rock and turns into the stone within a few years, while the remaining year simply returns to the atmosphere. Like planting trees and fertilizing the ocean dark, what's known as carbon dioxide removal solution or negative emissions technology. This solution typically from the basis of carbon offsetting projects supported by airlines such as Qantas and Delta, with most carrier now aligned সারিবদ্ধ now aligned with project verified by the likes of global standard and the verified carbon standard, once considered much less important than reducing emission from the outside. Or when it comes to mitigating climate change, carbon dioxide removal solution receiving significant scientific inducement in 2000. What is the mean of inducement? অনুমোদন inducement in 2080, when the publication of IPCC report on keeping the rise in global temperature to 1.5 C this century identified that this technology would be essential in reaching climate targets with limited or no overshoot. While most climate scientists agree that the portfolio of carbon dioxide removal solution is required to help turn back to clock on global warming, the efficiency and measurability of dark with permanent storage, combined with its minimal physical footprints and negligible environment impact, has seen this technology emerge as a particularly promising approach. In terms of efficiency, one tree remove approximately 2.25 kg of carbon dioxide per year, making one Claymore's carbon dioxide collectors 2,000 times more efficient per area than a tree, said co-founder and director of Claymore, which is June was named among 100 technology pioneers of 2020 by the World Economic Forum. Over the last decade, we have proven that direct air capture is not only possible but also commercially viable on large scale. Indeed, while Climber first permanent carbon removal facility is capable of turning just 50 tons of carbon to stone per year, a drop in the ocean compared to the 36 billion tons of carbon emitted globally in 2019, the company is rapidly expanding with a new facility is Iceland, capable of permanently removing several thousands of tons of carbon per year, due to open by the end of 2020. Claymark also has more than a dozen other plants in Europe that capture carbon to sell commercially for use in everything from carbonated drinks and synthetic fuels, which help fund the permanent carbon removal arms of the business, mobilizing travelers. In June 2019, Climber became the first company in the world to launch a personal carbon removal via DAG service to the public, with a subscription $7 per month, funding 85 kg of carbon per year being turned into this ton. Now a new permanent carbon removal platform aimed at traveler and launched in partnership with the Advanced Travel Trade Association has joined the movement to help offset the whopping 8% of global emission that international travel industry is responsible for. The finding of the IPCC report, particularly the urgency needed to make impact deeply affect me, said Kristen Beck, Vice President of Global Strategy at the ATTA. After attending climate summit designed to help delegate, delegates take climate action within their own spheres of influence, background funded carbon removal education platform Tomorrow on Earth Day 2020. 2 months later, on June, Tomorrow launched its own online carbon removal service in partnership with Climate. Until we come up with a genuinely sustainable way of flying people around the planet, we need to fly less. While carbon credits sold by Climate and Tomorrow's we are both good towards turning carbon into stone, Beckman is confined that launching a carbon removal platform incubated by the TTA, which reaches more than 6 million adventure travelers, will help motivate more travelers to sign up. Travel perks for cleanup campaign level subscribers, including travel gear discount and exclusive destination tips and contact sweeten that well. If you've just done the math on there, however, you would have figured out that an annual cleanup campaign scholarship campaign subscription barely offset one economic flight from Los Angeles to New York City, making turning carbon into a stone very expensive in comparison to traditional carbon offsetting schemes. To put the price different into perspectives, offsetting a tons of carbon by German non-profit atmosphere with support gold standard certified sustainable development products cost just 23, but with Claymore predicting that it will slash its cost by two-thirds within 3 years. The price gap is closing. Ultimately, tomorrow's year will be successful for the yearnings it creates as much as for the carbon it removes, said Beckman, who recently launched virtual tours of a Claymore's plant Switzerland urban experience, so consumers can see for themselves how dark technology works. We know that travelers want to take climate action in their one hand, and tomorrow are first and easy the fun way to make an immediate impact while helping to drive the cost of permanent carbon removal down. Could this be the new carbon offsetting? As permanent carbon removal becomes more accessible to travelers through these two schemes, environmental sociologist and University of Southampton research fellow Dr. Regard Tyers, who explored carbon offsetting in this PhD, says it may be held to bolster to offset industry. More measurable offsets like direct air capture could lift standards across to the whole offset market. He said that might also help shine a light on cheaper and less effective offset schemes that have dominated the market so far, which are often too good or cheap to be true. Until carbon removal with permanent storage becomes more financially viable of travelers to adapt, other offset providers perhaps shouldn't be too worried about losing customers. But the founders of Claymores tomorrow's are hope that the need for urgent action on climate action will encourage travelers to incorporate permanent carbon removal into their carbon offsetting strategies sooner than later. Travelers should not stop making other sustainable choices. We need them. We need them all. Beckman said, but by contributing a percentage of their offsetting budget of carbon removal with permanent storage, travelers can show their support for the faster and more durable solution. However, as international borders slowly begin to reopen following coronavirus lockdowns, their advisors that carbon dioxide removal by turning carbon into tons, just like any other forms of carbon offsetting, shouldn't be viewed as an excuse to book a long haul a holiday with a clear consequence. Until we come up with a genuinely sustainable way of flying people around the planet, we need to fly less. He said, it's as simple as that. Okay, that's all. I have completed reading this article. Okay, let's see how much time I spent. Oh, 12 minutes, 14 minutes. Okay, my viewers. Okay, my friends, the beautiful viewers. You can see that it can be seen that here when I try to read with understanding and knowing the every vocabulary meaning, that time I have to spend 45 minutes. That a long time. Near the 15 minutes I have been spent to read that article. I had spent to read that article, but when I just try to read the whole article, that time I have to spend just only 14 minutes, solely 14 minutes. Okay, so there's the scenario of mine, of my skimming and scanning power and my reading habit. You see that my reading habit is increasing gradually, and I hope after completing this challenge I will probably a good reader. Okay, a good reader. Okay, that's all today. তো এই হচ্ছে আজকের আর্টিকেল ছিল এবং আমি পড়লাম। আমি এই আর্টিকেলের লিঙ্কটি ডেসক্রিপশন বক্সে নিয়ে দিয়ে দিব। আমি জানি না আমার সাথে কেউ আছেন কিনা, আমি না থাকলেও সমস্যা নাই, বাট যদি কেউ থেকে থাকেন প্লিজ কমেন্ট বক্সে জানান যে আপনার এই আর্টিকেলটি পড়তে কতক্ষণ সময় লাগলো, বুঝে পড়তে কতক্ষণ লাগলো, আর বুঝে না পড়তে শুধু পড়ে যেতে কতক্ষণ সময় লাগলো। ওকে, 40 দিন পার হওয়ার পরে ইনশাল্লাহ আমরা একেবারে ফ্লুয়েন্টলি রিডিং করতে পারবো, আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং পাওয়ার বেড়ে যাবে আমাদের, ইনশাল্লাহ অবভিয়াসলি বেড়ে যাবে, এখানে কোনো সন্দেহ নেই। এবং আমরা আমাদের যে আইএলটিএস এক্সাম রয়েছে সেখানে আমরা ভালো করব ইনশাল্লাহ। ওকে, তো ভালো থাকবেন। আবার হাজির হবো আমাদের অষ্টম দিনে নেক্সট ডেতে অন্য কোনো আর্টিকেল নিয়ে। আমরা এনভায়রনমেন্ট পড়ছি, কালকে এনভায়রনমেন্ট বেজি আর্টিকেল থাকবে এবং 8 দিন পরে আমরা আর এনভায়রনমেন্ট পড়বো না, আমরা তখন অন্য কোনো ক্যাটাগরির আর্টিকেল আমরা পড়বো। ঠিক আছে, টাটা।